Hi, and welcome back to Scratch. Today, we're going to make shepherd's pie. If you'd like to support the channel, please like and share this recipe. For this, we'll need 1.5 pounds of ground beef, 8 russet potatoes, a bell pepper, a medium yellow onion, 1.5 cups of shredded cheddar cheese, a cup of ketchup, a half cup of half and half or whole milk, 5 tablespoons of butter divided, a quarter cup of sour cream, 3 tablespoons of tomato paste, 2 tablespoons of sugar, 3 tablespoons of minced garlic divided, a teaspoon of ground mustard, a teaspoon of chili powder, a teaspoon of balsamic vinegar, a teaspoon of Worcestershire sauce, 2 1/4 teaspoons of black pepper divided, 1.5 teaspoons of salt divided, a teaspoon of dried chives, 12 ounces of green beans, as well as some additional water and salt for boiling. We'll start by rinsing and peeling our potatoes in the sink. After peeling our potatoes, we'll cut them into approximately 1-inch cubes and transfer them to a large pot. Then we'll cover our potatoes with about 2 inches of water and sprinkle in a generous amount of salt. Then we'll put our potatoes on the stovetop over medium-high heat and allow them to come to a boil. We'll let them cook until tender, about 45 minutes. When our potatoes are done, we'll remove them from the heat, drain them in the sink, and return them to our pot. Then we'll stir in our 4 tablespoons of butter and begin mashing our potatoes. Once our butter is mostly melted, we'll mash in our half cup of half and half or whole milk and quarter cup of sour cream, as well as our 2 tablespoons of garlic, 2 teaspoons of black pepper, teaspoon of salt, and teaspoon of dried chives until few or no lumps remain. Then we'll set our mashed potatoes aside and begin working on our meat mixture. We'll put our ground beef on the stovetop over medium-high heat, crumbling as it cooks until cooked through, about 10 minutes. While our ground beef is cooking, we'll finely dice our bell pepper and peel and finely dice our onion. Once cooked, we'll drain our ground beef and wipe our pot out with a paper towel. Then return our pot to the stovetop over medium-high heat. Then we'll melt our tablespoon of butter and cook our bell pepper and onion until soft, about 6 minutes, stirring occasionally. Once softened, we'll stir in our cup of ketchup, 3 tablespoons of tomato paste, 2 tablespoons of sugar, tablespoon minced garlic, teaspoon each of ground mustard, chili powder, Worcestershire sauce, and balsamic vinegar, our remaining half teaspoon of salt, and remaining quarter teaspoon of pepper. We'll let this cook until it begins to simmer for about a minute. Then we'll return our ground beef to the pot and stir in our 12 ounces of green beans. I'm going to be using frozen green beans, but if you're using canned, drain them first. Once our meat mixture is finished, we'll preheat our oven to 350 degrees Fahrenheit. While our oven's preheating, we'll assemble our shepherd's pie. We'll spray a 9 by 13 inch casserole dish with some cooking spray and spread our meat layer in the bottom of our casserole dish. We'll top our meat layer with our mashed potatoes and spread our potatoes evenly before topping our shepherd's pie with 1.5 cups of shredded cheddar cheese. Once we've assembled our shepherd's pie, we'll bake it at 350 degrees Fahrenheit for 35 minutes until our meat layer is bubbling and our shredded cheddar has fully melted. And remember, if you like the content, please subscribe.